2 stunning wins.
Not bad. Louisville out by Creighton, and of course Wisconsin out by Southwest Missouri. A solid league up and down here, Jim.
So don't take Evansville lightly. They won the regular season title by 2 games, and they're led by Marcus Wilson. What about his game?
Well, Marcus Wilson is a very unusual basketball player to me. Not that athletic, but he knows how to score. Great pure shooter. Number 2 scorer all time at Evansville, a school that's got a storied basketball history.
Now for Kansas, Eric Chenoweth, just a sophomore, their leading scorer and rebounder.
He's coming on really strong and may turn out to be the best center they've ever had since Wilt.
Wow, that's saying a lot. And Chenoweth, big man today for Kansas, we expect. And what about the Jayhawk motion we're going to be seeing?
Well, here's an interesting thing. Chenoweth at the top of the key right here. You normally think of a postman buried down low, but look at what Roy Williams does to get him open. Sets the screener on a back screen through. Now there's going to be a back screen for Chenoweth. So instead of setting him down low, they set him up high, but get him in perfect position for the low post action. Here's the movement. Clears out a side, then there's the back screen. Now he's right down in there low and finishes up beautifully.
Well, the Purple Aces, directed by Jim Cruz in his 14th year. This is the 4th time he's taken his team to the big dance. And the Aces go with Snow, Seitz, all freshmen in the Missouri Valley Conference. And there's Marcus Wilson's 2nd all-time score at Evansville. Roy Williams, 11th year, 2 Final Fours in the 90s. More wins by the Kansas program in the 90s than any other school. Nick Bradford with T.J. Pugh. Chenoweth was all Big 12 tournament selection last week, but the freshman who's come on, Jeff Boschee, was the Big 12 tournament most valuable player. And Ryan Robertson, the senior, who's been so big through the years for the Jayhawks. Bonnie Bernstein is also with us. Let's check in with Bonnie right now.
Hi, Jim. Just touched base with Roy Williams, and he said, you know what? You got to give Evansville credit. He thinks they're just as good of a shooting team as Kansas is. He said the way we're going to have to beat them tonight is with our size and our defense, Jim.
Well, Bonnie, you make a good point, because this Evansville team, all 5 starters shoot better than 50% from the field. That is a rarity.
And Jim, they shoot 50% as a team from the field, which is very unusual in this day and age.
Meanwhile, for Kansas, 23 of the last 24 Jayhawk opponents have not shot 50%.
Sometimes stats do lie. Evansville also from the foul line shoots 77.
This is a KENS 5 Eyewitness News Weather Bulletin.
I'm meteorologist Albert Flores. Another tornado warning has been issued now for Frio County, which is right down in this area. People in the Pearsall area should be prepared for this storm, which has been moving through. This is now approaching Pearsall and Dilley. So the storm that had been around Uvalde back over to Hondo is now shifted and gone south. Those areas now are under a tornado warning for the next hour or so. These storms will just barely skirt southern Bexar County. However, another line of heavy thunderstorms will be moving through the area within the next hour. Once again, we have a tornado warning now for Frio County, which includes the cities of Pearsall and Dilley. We'll have more a little later on this evening.
For Kansas to get this thing started, they need to take some time, get some decent looks. Stanton, good solid ball handler. Doesn't look to shoot much, just initiate the offense.
The jumper in and out for Snow, and Chenoweth pulls it away for the Hawks.
And nobody within 12 feet for an offensive rebound for Evansville.
Chenoweth was wide open. There he is. And mistimed his jump.
Actually should have had that, Jim.
Kansas defense has really come on here. That's a big reason why they won the Big 12 tournament. Wilson, their leading scorer, hits a 3.
Now Robertson made a decision as to whether to go over or underneath the screen. Picked to go underneath, and Wilson just drained it. Too good a shooter to let that wide open. That looks like a replay of what we saw with Zerbiak earlier in the day.
Pugh with the basket for Kansas.
Good change off the pass by Seitz, but went a little bit too far.
Stepped on the baseline. Kansas, when it won the Big 12 tournament last Sunday, held Oklahoma State to only 37 points. The fewest points allowed by Kansas since a game back in 1968. Cowboys, who advanced yesterday in the tournament, will win over Syracuse, shot only 23% from the field. Boshi blocked by Stanton from behind. He released early, but Chenoweth and others, and a timeout called by Bagley.
Well, I think it's a jump situation because nobody had possession. I can't believe Bagley got credit for the possession and they go to the arrow there because it was a jump situation. Nobody really had possession.
So the arrow belongs to the Purple Aces.
Not a flow to this game yet, Jim. Be interesting to see who establishes some kind of a pattern. Good defense by Pugh. He's an excellent defender. Really fights over the top.
Bagley from the right wing. Got it this time. Another three for the Aces.
Big shot there because what it does is it makes Chenoweth play him honestly, which pulls him away from the basket.
Chenoweth pass off the hands of Snow.
If you're Roy Williams, you've got to question the tempo of your team right now. And, you know, they're led by a freshman in the backcourt as well as Robertson. I think Robertson's experience has to take over now and settle his team down a little bit. Evansville plays solid defense, so you just can't force bad shots or passes.
Robertson hasn't had a lot of touches in the first 3 minutes. Chenoweth, hook shot comes up short.
Excellent defense by Bagley.
Stanton pushes it up.
You see any Indiana in this team with a lot of this screening on the inside, huh?
Just a little bit. Jim Cruz, four-year letterman for Indiana. His senior year, they were undefeated back in '76. And also served as an assistant to Bobby Knight for 8 years. Head of the Missouri Valley, 2,400 students in the school.
I would have to say, Jim, 2,400 students makes that the smallest enrollment of any school in this year's NCAA tournament. What do you think?
It's got to be close. I remember last year that belonged to Davidson, 1,600.
Yeah, I would say it's the smallest this year. But an incredible tradition. 5 times under Aaron McCutcheon that this school won the college division national championship. Now, of course, Division I.
Kwame James, number 50, has come in, as well as Chuck Hetty right there, number 40, for the Purple Aces, who are jumping on Kansas here early, 9-2.
Something thrown on the floor. Jim, and I think the reason for that is I think that Evansville more comfortable with the pace of the way they're playing than is Kansas. They came down and acted like they were going to knock out Evansville, and that's not what you're going to do against a solid club like this. Just as you pointed out at the top of the show, the Valley has shown it's got some basketball teams. You better give them the proper respect.
Boshi, freshman, three-pointer.
Young man who we saw early this season on CBS, at that time having a hard time figuring out when to take the right shots, doing a much better job now.
Wilson, three-pointer on the other end. He has 9 for the Aces.
A brilliant outside shooter. Robertson cannot afford to turn his head like he did and let him open. Now the boos that we hear, Jim,
for Lester
Earl is coming in the game. You can expand on that story later, but he didn't even get to the sideline before they started booing him.
And a foul on Wilson. Lester Earl will come in for Kansas along with Kenny Gregory, but Earl is from Baton Rouge, right up the road, a little more than an hour away, and the Cajuns down here blame him for LSU being slapped with probation.
Well, of course, he attended LSU and then got immunity to go ahead and testify against them. And so the people down here not too happy. And look at this, Evansville in a little zone defense.
Lester Earl has battled injuries all season, a knee operation in December, sprained ankle in January, and really emerged for the first time this season in the Big 12 tournament just last week.
Boy, solid zone defense here, really packed inside.
Gregory, nice move.
Number 20, Kenny Gregory of Kansas.
Both teams going to this bench early and playing about the same numbers. Evansville a solid 8 or 9 deep, probably 8.
Kyle Runyon in the game, gives it up to James. Jumper, too strong. Gregory. Robertson in the lane.
Won't see that happen very much against Evansville. A guy driving all the way from the outside, nobody picking him up. Relatively small team out there right now for Evansville.
Stanton, wow.
They are
another three.
Tearing it up from the outside. This is kind of like that exhibit that Penn put on against Florida yesterday.
They made 4 out of their first 5 from behind the arc. Boshi off the screen. And Wilson snags it. They've got the numbers. Pull up jumper. And Wilson is on fire. He's got 11.
Jim, you got to make him drive. He's an outside shooter. And a great one.
And they boo as soon as the ball touches the hands of Lester Earl. We were anxious to see what the reaction would be down here.
Well, it's going to be tough for this young man to concentrate on the game. Could you imagine returning home in an NCAA tournament game to your home area? Normally, that's a big celebration. Very positive. Here's a negative one.
Robertson from the baseline. Beautiful.
Kansas, Ryan Robertson.
Well, Earl had been talking all week to his teammates about how thrilled he was to come here. And last night, Roy Williams allowed him to pick the restaurant for the Jayhawks for the team meal. You got some good choices down this way, believe me.
Wilson has had 3 30-point games this year so far, and he's off to a pretty good start tonight.
That shot. 8-point lead by the Purple Aces.
I think they're going to have to put somebody a little bit more athletic on him than Robertson. Maybe a guy like Gregory, because he's shooting right over Robertson.
Hugh.
Basket by number 32, PJ Hugh, Kansas.
See, Robertson normally is bigger than the guy he's playing in the back court, but not tonight. There he gets stuck again behind a screen.
Forget this.
Roy, you've got to get a more athletic player on this young man. He's a little tired right now. He was looking to come out. Jimmy Cruz just waved him off.
He's saying, hey, Wally Zerbiak, you're not the only guy that can fill it up in here. Zerbiak had 43 earlier today, 43 of his team's 59. Just a remarkable performance, leading Miami into the second round. Earl.
Now that's a good way to silence him, and Roy Williams claps for Earl. He's got to focus on the game, can't worry about the crowd.
You know, there just aren't any whistles in this game. We haven't even had the under 16 timeout yet.
Well, maybe that's why Wilson's so tired.
Heading. Boy, at the other end.
Jim, you pointed it out at the top. Team shoots 50%. No matter who comes in off of that bench or starters, they are drilling it.
Gregory lost control of it. Wilson and lays it in for 2 more. He has 18 points in the first 8 minutes.
Well, Wally Zerbiak's record's going to last for half an hour.
Half a day.
3.5 hours.
Unbelievable. Hugh,
nice.
Twice.
Hetty playing right behind him. I'll tell you, because there are no timeouts, Jim, all the guys that have seen constant action, Pugh being an example, they are exhausted.
It's supposed to be an official timeout, the first whistle under 16 minutes, and then one under 12, 8, 4, etc. And have you ever seen a game go to 11 minutes or below without a whistle?
Well, what I like, the fact that the referees are letting the game play.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that people aren't fouling, just letting them play, and they're establishing a pattern to the game.
Before that miss, Evansville had hit 6 straight from the field. Earl passes to Pugh.
There's your foul.
Yep, fouled by Stanton.
Pretty good help by Stanton coming inside. Look at Pugh, has not had a rest. He's the only starter. Well, Bushi and Robertson been out there as well, but he's been having a battle on the inside. He is whipped.
He gets to shoot the free throws. If he makes the second, they'll get that timeout. If he misses, they keep playing. Well, the Jayhawks championships in 1952 and 1988. 10 Final Fours overall.
Well, when we think of 88, we think of about what Wally Serbiak did today. Take a team, put him on its back. 88 jumps out at you as one of the all-time great performances of that throughout the entire 6 games. When, of course, Danny Manning did that for Kansas.
Earl booed all the way back to the bench. Clint Keon has come in, 33 for the Aces. Bagley returns. Adam Seitz is back into the game. Pugh, if he makes it, we'll have a timeout. Well, Evansville with a 7-point lead. The Evansville Purple Aces did not play a single top 25 team all year. They were picked 6th in the preseason in the Missouri Valley Conference and finished first by 2 games over Creighton, Southwest Missouri, both of whom are in this NCAA tournament, and on to the second round, and Bradley, which did not get a bid.
Jim, what impressed me is of their last 10 games, 8 of them were on the road, and of their last 12 games, they won 9 of them. So they proved they can play in tough environments.
They break the press, no problem, but Snow misses the short one with the pressure, but back out. Seitz saves it for him. Jumper, Snow short this time.
Snow, a good shooter, had a very good tournament.
Nick Bradford straddling that midcourt line. And into Chenoweth, doubled up.
Boy, he's got to realize with that double team coming, the pass is the throw opposite.
Snow knocked it out.
Great doubling down. One of the things, Evansville may give up a little size, but they double down nicely on the low post.
Another timeout on the floor. 26-19, Aces.
The ball is going to go into the post. Now, what Chenoweth has to realize that people are doubling down on him. Gregory's got to move. Players have to move. The ball should come out opposite right here to Gregory, and he's going to have a shot. Instead, watch what happens. Chenoweth gets it. Here comes all the double teams. He's standing. Nothing happens. He has got to throw immediately.
The Aces shooting almost 70% from the field, and they give up the basket there to Nick Bradford.
Marlon London's going to try his hand now on Wilson.
Here he is, Marlon London, freshman from Broadview, Illinois, 24. Ding up on Marcus Wilson, who has 18 for the Aces. 2-point shot. And a push-off against Snow.
And Wilson looks at the referee and said, I got hit on the hand. Now, as hot as he is right now, he ought to sell that a little bit more to the officials. Say, hey, wait a second. Kind of like Ted Williams when he used the stories they used to say to him when a strike was called a strike, and he said to turn around to the umpire and say, no, I'll tell you when it's a strike. When you're shooting like he is, you sell it to that referee, say, hey, I don't miss him unless somebody hits me.
Yeah, he made his first 6 shots. There's London getting a soft roll off the front of the rim.
And London runs right over on Wilson again. Keon stuck.
Look at London coming in. 6 unanswered now for the Jayhawks.
And that was the fault of Keon, who didn't keep his dribble alive. Almost throws it away again. The Blue Devils, even without Trajan Langdon, having no trouble with a 16th seed tonight. Nice cut.
Snow lays it up, misses the lay-in. Kansas can take the lead. Had been down by as many as 11. Lang gives it up to Chenoweth, and the Jayhawks are in front.
London with a defensive play, Jim, a steal and a layup, and then a nice dish. Excellent 30 seconds off that bench.
7 different players have scored for Kansas. 12 unanswered points.
Evansville has got to get Snow on track as well.
Snow is 0 for 4 from the field.
Snow had 11, 12, and 13 points in the conference tournament. Really
2 on the
quiet.
shot clock. Chenoweth with the steal. Gives it up to Bradford. 2-on-1.
Nice.
Back to Gregory. And Kansas has now made 9 straight from the field.
You know, Kansas has some pretty good finishers. Gregory, an excellent finisher. Bradford can finish. They've got to get somebody other than Wilson to score. And I think it's Snow, the guy they've got to get open here sooner or later.
Keon gives it up to Wilson.
Bradford just won't let him have the ball in scoring position.
Wilson had 18 points in the first 8 minutes. Has been shut out the last 4.5. That's traveling.
Keon in a little bit over his head in this game.
It's all coming undone for Evansville in this stretch. 14 unanswered. Kansas is ahead.
Clark Kellogg in New York. 7:32 to play in the first half. Kansas with a lead on Evansville now. And while we keep that score at the bottom of your screen, we'll check around the country, and we'll begin with Boston, Lafayette, and Miami Hurricanes in a tight one, Clark.
Lafayette basically just going toe-to-toe with Miami, playing tough, scrappy, aggressive defense, making just enough shots to keep Miami honest, and really doing a nice job here staying close.
Tim James of Miami has been suffering from back spasms this week. So far, 5 points, 7 rebounds, and Miami will put up with that back spasms.
There's Johnny Hemsley from deep. He's explosive as a scorer. All Big East first teamer. Compliments Tim James extremely well.
Johnny Hemsley has hit 4 threes. He has 12 points all told. In Milwaukee at the Bradley Center, Mount St. Mary's and Michigan State, the Spartans a 5-point lead.
Well, Mount St. Mary's has done a pretty good job on the board. Michigan State, one of the best rebounding teams in the country. If you're going to have any chance to stay with them and think about beating them, you have to play close to even on the glass.
Michigan State has turned the ball over 7 times already in this game.
Well, you know, turnovers are like missing breakfast, Greg. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you.
At the Charlotte Coliseum, Florida A&M and Duke, the Blue Devils, completely in charge from the word go.
As expected, just too much firepower from too many different places. FAMU well overmatched, although they did hang with Duke up until about the first TV timeout.
Duke at one point, a 23-0 run over 8.5 minutes. We'll keep you abreast of everything that's happening right now. Let's get you back to New Orleans, where Kansas and Evansville are in a 31-all tie. Jim Nance and Billy Packard.
All right, Greg and Clark, we'll look forward to our visit with you at halftime. And the game has just been tied on a Begley 3. Earlier, Craig Snow made his first field goal. Meanwhile, Kansas on its end of the floor made a basket by T.J. Pugh. They've now converted on their last 10 shots from the field.
Pugh open again.
Make it 11 straight from the floor.
We're seeing some pretty interesting low post moves by Pugh tonight. Turned himself into a scorer here. Jim, Lafayette, great coach, player combo. Butch Van Redikoff, you know who the player was? Pete Carell. You ever hear those two guys?
Just a little bit.
I'm taking you way back now.
Runyon with the soft roll. And this game's tied at 33. Pugh has 12 points in the game, and his career high is 13.
See how he made that play, Jim? It went into him. He fired it right back out. His teammates weren't ready.
Pass may have had a little too much heat, too.
Well, his teammate should have been ready for the shot. London limping off the, like he's holding his thigh or his hip.
For non-stop tournament action with live scores and updated brackets in the tournament tracker, go to cbs.sportsline.com or America Online at keyword CBS Sportsline.
Now Runyon moves to the backcourt now with Stanton. And the way that Kansas has picked up their half-court defense, one ball handler out here could have a problem. Here it comes, half-court trap. Oh, almost picked off.
Pugh went for the steal.
They threw the half-court zone trap at him and then went right back to their tough man-to-man.
Stanton to the corner, open man, Runyon. Long rebound to Bradford.
Obviously, they're not going to go out and play Pugh there, but it gives them a good passing angle.
There's a misfire by the Jayhawks.
Pugh having a tremendous first half for Kansas.
Bradford gives it up to Chenoweth. And one.
Jim, you can't have any better interior passing than what Kansas has put on here in the second half of this first half. Bradford had a good shot, instead gave it to a teammate who had a better shot. Now watch this. He's got the little jump shot available here. Sees a teammate open, and Chenoweth obviously finishes off. When you look at Chenoweth this year, 24 against Oklahoma, 25 against Oklahoma State, 20 Kansas State, 25 and 17 rebounds against Texas A&M. He's putting up some big numbers.
And he turned 20 just Tuesday.
You know, the Big 12 next year is going to be blessed with some of the best postmen in the United States. Chris Mill, of course, having a great year with Texas this year. Luke Axelm will be back with this Kansas team, transferring from Texas.
Lester Earl is back in. You could no doubt tell by the reaction from the home fans here in New Orleans. Earl from Baton Rouge. There's Wilson. Bradford again with the rebound.
Wilson has been quiet.
Robertson.
Some more good interior passing.
Chenoweth, another dunk.
Good offensive rebound. That size starting to pile up now in Evansville.
Will return Bagley to the lineup.
You know, on the year, Evansville with a negative rebound.
Kansas by 5. The under 4 timeout. Back in New Orleans. Jayhawks have won 15 straight first-round games. The last time they lost an opening round game was 1978. They lost to UCLA out in Eugene, Oregon.
Well, Jim, you remember Roy Williams, this is his 11th year. His first year, they were ineligible for the tournament. He's taken them 10 straight after that. And how about Wilson, Jim? He was on fire early. He hasn't really had many touches since. And he has not scored a point in the last 8 minutes, huh?
He had 18 points in the first 8 minutes.
Hadn't scored in the last 11 minutes.
Steal, Lester Earl gives it up to Chenoweth. Third dunk of the game for the center, and Kansas has its largest lead.
Goes without saying, a totally unselfish team here. Giving up good shots to get better ones.
Points in the paint, a 5-1 margin for Kansas.
Chenoweth runs right through the solid screen, picks up a cheap foul, and Roy Williams says to him, we don't need that.
Coming up on Pennzoil at the half, Greg and Clark getting caught up in all the scores and highlights and some live tastes of some of the other games. It's all coming up on Pennzoil at the half. Wilson to Snow. I'll tell you, that was pretty unselfish by Marcus Wilson on that one.
It was. Now, see, that is where the foul by Chenoweth, that was the foolish foul out front, now costs you. In less than 3 seconds of time, he picks up 2 fouls. You cannot afford to do that. This foul is a reasonable foul. You're trying to stop a guy inside with the block. The other foul was just foolish. Chenoweth with 75 blocks on the year.
Snow three-pointer. Back of the rim again. It was a good tip out back to the foul shooter. 3 minutes to go in the half. Kansas trailed by as many as 11 in this half.
Well, that's when Wilson, and there he's got another pickoff.
Giving chase with Ryan Robertson. We'll say Ryan reached in, his second. Only the 4th Kansas foul, so we're still well out of the 1-and-1.
Remember on that first pickoff, Wilson showed us an explosive first step on the dribble. That time Robertson tried to stay with him and couldn't stay with him. London slips on the wet floor that was created when Wilson and Robertson went down. and really twisted his leg there. Lucky he didn't get injured.
Emmy Award winner John Larroquette returns to television as Royal Payne, an innkeeper with an attitude. Don't miss the series premiere of Payne Monday after Raymond on CBS.
You see it right here, Jim. Remember the two fellas slipped. They're right there. Boy, you can really hurt yourself there.
Lucky he didn't do a little damage to that left knee. He's fine.
They're going to get it wiped up. Last year, this Evansville team lost in the first round of their conference tournament and had no postseason. So pretty good comeback here.
It's an Evansville team that defeated Southwest Missouri State 2 times this year, 2 for 2. Southwest Missouri today knocking out a Big Ten squad, Wisconsin, holding Wisconsin to 32, the lowest point total by a team in the NCAA tournament since it went to 64 teams back in 1985. Lowest total by 6 points. Snow stripped away by Pugh. What a half. Looking for some help now. London. Tipped around. Robertson back out high. 3-pointer.
Wilson's open on the side. Took too long to get him the ball. He was ready to shoot.
Purple Aces down 5. Wilson now with 20. Right on his average.
Wilson of Evansville.
And Bradford lays in. It looked like Jim Cruz for a moment there was double teaming.
He's playing a little defense.
And a block against Robertson.
What we see, Jim, is down in the low post. Kansas players moving very well without the ball, and their interior passing has been excellent in this first half.
So that's 3 on Ryan Robertson, who's been working as an intern this senior year at school in the sports information department.
Well, he didn't really do a job for anybody. You know, there was not a Kansas player on the all preseason Big 12 team.
Wait a minute.
So he's got to learn how to get a little more pub out there for some of his teammates.
I didn't want it to be too self-serving.
And that was funny when I talked to Roy before the season started, and he's saying, hey, I don't have a guy that's been picked on a preseason all-tournament, and I'm all-tournament team, I mean an all-conference team, and they're picking us to win the league. What do they think I am? Well, they won the league.
Yep, by winning the tournament. They'll have some all Big 12 preseason members next year. You've got to think.
Right. And obviously they had some all-tournament players. Man right out there on defense was the most outstanding player. Bushi. Oh, boy, 8-point shot by Snow. He's the key guy that they've got to get scoring a little bit more to take the pressure off of Wilson.
Back to a 2-point game with a little more than a minute to go in the half. Boshi fouled, and he'll shoot 3. The Superdome already a site today of one thriller. Miami University handing Washington a 1-point loss for the second straight year in the NCAAs. Last year, UConn ended the Huskies run, Washington Huskies. And today, thanks to the play of Wally Zerbiak's 43 points, Miami advanced. Here, Kansas, the 6th seed, tangling with the 11th seed out of the Missouri Valley Conference, Evansville. And Kansas leads now with that free throw by the freshman Jeff Boshi, leads by 3. But earlier, they were down 11 as Marcus Wilson of Evansville scored 18 points in the opening 8 minutes.
Jim, this has been a contrasting game right here. Kansas doing a tremendous job with points in the paint. Evansville primarily scoring on the perimeter.
Utah already won 2, and they'll take on the Red Hawks in the next round. Utah getting a big second half performance by Hano Metala. He had 19 in the second half as they won by 22.
Not Wilson again. That was about the cleanest shot opening he had in the entire first half.
Well, Wilson made his first 6 field goals in the game.
Look at how they're not guarding the entry passer at the top of the key. He's going to have to take up a little bit of space, as Gregory did right there.
Gregory, nice little dribble move to free himself.
The man's not going to guard you, and you're standing at the top of the key. Get a little closer.
Now the Aces can take the final shot if they want it. They're down 7.
Down 7 from where they were just less than 30 seconds ago, Jim. They're just down 2.
Yep, 42-40 exploded awfully fast to 47-40. Stanton with 10. Wilson with 5. Long range jumper. Snow got it.
That was where he extended way beyond where the defense wants to play somebody. Great shot by Snow.
Well, Evansville scores 6 points more in the half than Oklahoma State did in the game in the Big 12 final against Kansas.
Good job by Snow by stepping back beyond that 3-point line.
Kansas leads in a shootout. Let's go back to Greg Gumbel in New York.
All right, Jim, thank you. Make no mistake, the Purple Aces can shoot the basketball. They trail Kansas by 4 at halftime. Meanwhile, at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, first round in the Midwest, Mount St. Mary's trails top seed Michigan State. Let's take you to Tim Brando and James Worthy.
First Union, Kinko's, and by Visa.
The 43 points by Evansville, the most allowed by Kansas in the first half this year.
Pepsi One presents the Virtual Playbook.
Here we're going to see how Wilson got open in the first half. Simple screen away. Here's a pass, reverse the ball, a screen. Now Robertson gets caught behind the screen, and by going underneath allows Wilson to have the wide open jumper. And you cannot allow this man to have a wide open jumper like this. He tied the all-time NCAA record for threes in a game, 9 for 9. And boy, when he gets an open look like that, forget about it.
And Marcus Wilson, the second game of the season, 9 for 9 threes in a game against Tennessee Martin. It had followed the season opening 0 for 4, an 0 for against Western Kentucky. Then just nails all 9.
Well, we may see a little of that in the second game. Scott Padgett started the season 0 for 18 from 3 and then got on a tear himself.
It led all the way to Most Valuable Player award at the SEC tournament last week as Kentucky won all 3 games in the tournament by double digits. Kentucky and New Mexico State will have the floor after this one.
Jim, 2 players for Evansville in that first half scored 30 of the 43 points. They've got to get somebody else in it.
Kansas leading 47-43, and TJ Pugh called for the charge. Basket is taken away. Evansville had an 11-point lead early in the game, 26-15. Kansas's largest lead 7 at 47-40. And there he is, Marcus Wilson, now with 22 points.
Bradford on him now. Evansville was 8 for 14 from 3 in the first half, so they had a 21-point margin from the 3-point line. Kansas did much better, obviously, in the paint.
And Nick Bradford drains the jumper. Evansville, as a team, over 50% from the field. All 5 starters shoot better than 50% from the floor. And they're doing it again tonight. Robertson on the drive, and one.
Jimmy Cruz looked at Begley and said, why are you taking that outside shot? And that really cost his team a basket on both ends.
Kansas, fresh off its victory at the Big 12 tournament, getting a good test here from Evansville, the regular season champions of the Missouri Valley Conference, a conference that sent 3 teams to this tournament, 10, 11, and 12 seeds they were ranked, but they're already in with 2 teams in the second round. Creighton over Louisville, one of them. Southwest Missouri State today ending Wisconsin's run in 1 game.
Jim, here's a little bit of a 1-3-1 zone now by Kansas. Kind of dangerous with Wilson out there, and they try to screen him in the corner. Again, somebody else. Snow can step outside and shoot the 3 with some range.
Blocked by Chenoweth. He said, Billy, 75 blocks on the season. He had already in his career 4 games of 7 blocks.
Good cut by Pugh. Cleared everything out for Chenoweth. That's a nice maneuver there. Let's see if they stay in this zone.
Chenoweth with 11, and Kansas with its largest lead of the game, 9.
1-3-1 zone now being run by Kansas. Oh, nice. Oh, she's really hustling on that ball.
And Evansville hits another one. Snow. Kansas shooting 70% from the field for the game.
Well, Jim, they normally shoot 44 on the year. They hold opponents, however, to 38%. And Evansville in the first half shot 55%, so they're right there with them. It's been a game of contrast. One team inside, the other team outside.
22nd timeout called by Jim Cruz and Evansville. Jim Cruz, 4th trip to the NCAA tournament. In his first trip to the big dance back in 1989, West Region, Tucson, Arizona, Evansville in 11. Then, as they are now, against the 6th seed Oregon State. And Jim Cruz, with a late 3 by player Reed Crafton, gave Evansville the win in overtime, ending Ralph Miller's legendary career. Tournament heritage for Evansville that before it went Division I in 1977 had won 5 Division II championships, national championships.
Over the likes of Southwestern Missouri State, Chapman, Akron, Southern Illinois, and Old Dominion. A number of those other schools are still down in Division I and doing pretty well.
Snow. 17 minutes to go. Kansas looking for a double-digit lead for the first time. Pugh to Bradford. It is an unselfish team here at Kansas.
Jim, as I said in the first half, when that ball goes into the low post and a team that likes to double down, the answer is to throw opposite. Pugh is doing an excellent job with that. Chenoweth hasn't quite caught on to it. Somebody will be open on the opposite side.
Not this time. Bradford with the rebound.
Should give it up. Should give it up earlier.
Kansas has hit 6 in a row from the field, going back to the first half. And they also had a run in that first half of 10 in a row made from the field.
See, there's Chenoweth again, getting the ball inside. He has to understand they're doubling down on him. He's got to get rid of the ball in a hurry. Running into the ball game, Kansas gets out of that little 1-3-1 point zone they ran. Number of curl screens, and Kansas does a nice job defensively stopping it.
Under 10 on the shot clock. Wilson trying to create, and does.
How about that soft touch there, Jim? Didn't really have a good angle for that shot. Created it by extending his hand out to the right.
Wilson with 24. Hook shot, Chenoweth, not this time. Runyon over to Stanton. He'll come back to the middle.
I really like how patient Wilson is. He doesn't take bad shots. A good steal by Robertson.
Surveys, holds it up, and they'll reset. Pugh looking for a career high. Would have had it had he made that. Runyon on the drive. Beginning March 30th, Craig Kilburn brings his unique comedy style to CBS late night. Play a little college basketball. Former sportscaster and Soon the host of his own late night talk show. Catch the premiere of The Late Late Show with Craig Kilborn March 30th after David Letterman right here on CBS.
Tim Runyon, who Jim Crews feels is their best pure shooter, really has suffered through a tough season with injuries. He still has a sprained tendon, a torn tendon actually in his left hand, non-shooting hand, so he can play with it. He's had some ankle problems and
sprained his shooting hand, so he's had a hand injury.
Yep.
Right hand, left hand. And they say, Crews told us yesterday, he's our best shooter.
Best pure shooter they've got. That's saying something with Wilson around.
Jayhawks by 7. Well, we've lost to 4 seed today, Arizona. Does that shock you, Billy?
Yeah, it does. I really thought that Oklahoma was struggling. And you, Jim, with your great ability in regard to the selection process, said that was the last team to get in?
Clearly, yeah. It's a large team with the worst seeding. You would have to think. SEC 4-0 with 2 games on tap tonight. Ole Miss against Villanova and Kentucky on this floor against New Mexico State.
Well, they've got the best record in the Final Four in the 90s. The SEC has had multiple teams in twice in the 90s.
That team in the championship game the last 5 years. Arkansas twice, Kentucky 3 times, the last 3. Meanwhile, the Pac-10 in this tournament, 1-3. Only one still alive. That's Stanford. They've lost Washington, Arizona, and UCLA in the first round.
Runyon on the foul.
The foul, number 42, Kyle Runyon of Evansville. That's his first.
Jim, right now you have Evansville in a situation where they need to have a little bit of run to get this back together. Kansas kind of settling in. Go into the little zone, matching up with that zone. Robinson, pretty good outside shooter himself. He can get himself over, but it's all inside play by Kansas. You just can't keep trying to score on your end from 20 feet where Kansas is scoring from 2 feet.
Michigan State 18 ahead of Mount St. Mary's, and Miami at last pulling away from Lafayette.
Both teams playing the zone. Oh, nice job by Gregory. Tremendous effort there. He was kind of pushed from behind. He just kept right on Sky, and he's got a tremendous vertical leap.
Gregory coming in and really creating tonight.
Gregory's got a lot of quickness up in there. Chenoweth, see if he's got the hands to put it away.
Hugh, and a hold on Wilson.
Chenoweth wondering how he didn't draw the foul.
The foul is on number 5, Marcus Wilson of Evansville. That's his second personal. 13.
Now wait.
At the line, number 42, Eric Chenoweth. It's substitution for number 32, Greg Snow.
Here at the Louisiana Superdome, Kansas found itself down 11 in the first half to Evansville out of the Missouri Valley Conference, as Marcus Wilson, number 5 for the Purple Aces, had 18 points alone in the first 8 minutes. But Kansas has come back and led by 4 at halftime, increasing that lead to 9 right now, which matches the Jayhawks' largest lead of the game. Later tonight, it'll be Kentucky against New Mexico State. The Wildcats opening their defense of their national title. Earlier today, Miami University behind Wally Zerbiak's 43 points, 12 rebounds, edged Washington by 1, while Utah was a 22-point victor over Arkansas State. It's interesting, Arkansas State's head coach, Dickie Nutt, is here in attendance tonight watching, making the most out of Arkansas State's first trip to the big dance.
Beautiful backdoor cut. Boshi, good pass from Chenoweth. He really has a great angle at 7 feet tall to be able to see that cut. And they stay back in this zone. See if Wilson can get himself 3. Looking for the cross-court pass.
Snow gets Chenoweth to commit. Left-hander. Bangs it home.
Snow averaging 13.3 on the year. Can be a big scorer. Had a very good NBC tournament. showed us right before the half the extension he has to be able to go out beyond 3 points, take a long shot. That was a good move with his left hand inside. Pugh having one of the outstanding games he's had in his entire career here tonight. Bougie jumper.
All net.
Kind of interesting, Jim. Since Kansas has gone to the zone, the one guy you would assume would be the zone buster is Wilson. He has not had the ball in shooting position against this defense.
Kansas with its largest lead, 11, while Miami is up 16 on Lafayette, and Duke destroying Florida A&M by 47. Kansas was down 11 at one time, now up 11. And that'll send Snow to the line for 2. He has 14 points on the night. Well, look at the field goal percentage for Kansas, 64%. Jayhawks in the first half had a stretch where they made 10 straight from the field. And points in the paint.
Well, that's the story of this basketball game. As I said, one team shooting from the perimeter and shooting very well was Evansville. But if you're going to take shots from 20 feet, 25 feet, the other guy's taking them from 2 to 2.5 feet. Sooner or later, as the clock goes on, that's going to catch up with you. Here's Lester Earl coming into the game.
Another chorus of boos for the former LSU Tiger, raised in Baton Rouge. And
Jim, that was an interesting article, and some of the comments that Roy Williams made. He said he's not real happy that Lester's driving the truck that he's driving on that Kansas campus. There's certainly been an incredible amount of investigation involving this young man, both when he was at LSU and, of course, with the transfer to Kansas. But Roy trying to keep everything out in front on top of the table. It has not been easy for him. And the young man has had a less than favorable welcome here in his home territory.
Earl began his college career at LSU. And due to some of his testimony, LSU was placed on probation. He transferred out to Kansas, so not a warm welcome. There's Bradford, his teammate, hitting the jumper.
And I don't think that story is over yet, Jim. I mean, they keep digging on that one.
From the corner, all air, and London pulls it away. Kansas wants to run. Well, there are those who don't want it to go away, including Earl's former college coach at LSU.
Dale Brown.
3.
Well, Kansas just killed them on the glass now. They dominated the boards in the first half, and this second half just been too much.
Kansas trying to set up what many are expecting to be that Kentucky-Kansas second-round matchup. They met earlier in the year, Snow with a 3. They met earlier in the year, the Grade 8 tournament, and Kentucky beat them by 18, and it could have been a lot worse.
Well, Jim, in one night, whoever would have expected a UCLA name and a North Carolina name going down in the same day in the first round of an NCAA tournament?
Yep, just 5 minutes apart. They tied them up, and it'll be Evansville ball.
Roy Williams frowns there, and again we get back to the doubling down by Evansville. You got to get the ball out of the low post in a hurry.
Kansas by 13. Well, later tonight, Purdue against Texas, and bear in mind the 10 has beaten the 7 in this tournament in the other 3 regions, including Miami University here today over Washington.
Jim, the 9 has beaten the 8 more times than not in the tournament. And here's a great story right here. Lou Henson with his 700th victory this year, going up against the team that's won more college basketball games than anybody else, Kentucky. College of Charleston right there, John Kress. Second longest streak coming into the tournament of anybody this side of Duke. And here we see the zone for Kansas. Trying to force a little time here.
Runyon, the pure shooter. Living up to that billing right there. That gets it back to 10. London steps in. Jumper, freshman short. Back to him, though. One more time.
Good job on the offensive glass again by Kansas.
Lester Earl will shoot 2, and near the conclusion of this game, we'll select the Chevrolet most valuable player of the game from each team. And to date, Chevrolet has contributed over $6.5 million to the scholarship funds of America's colleges and universities.
Boy, listen to this place on this young man. Now, you got to remember, he played one semester at LSU. 9.3 points, 5.7 rebounds. He actually played against Kansas while he was at LSU. Scored 8 points, 9 rebounds against them out in Maui, and was heavily recruited by Kansas before he went to LSU.
1 of 2, and the crowd rejoices with the second one going awry.
Now, Keon, who had a very difficult first half. Remember the couple of possessions he was in there.
Will be called on Lester Earl.
Foul on number 24.
They'll make that actually on London. Marlon London. Jim Cruz, he was on the last undefeated team in college basketball, the 76 Hoosiers, 32-0, national champions. Here's his start.
Lucas Wilson. He got clobbered on the inside, no call. I really like his demeanor on the court.
London, he's going to be a good one. That was one of the things that they really didn't have at all when they played Kentucky earlier in the year. Boshi was just a raw freshman, and London wasn't contributing much.
Most important guy to block out is the shooter. Boshi didn't do the job on it. Jim, talking about Wilson out there, have you ever seen a guy, he's the second leading scorer, will go down the second leading scorer in the history of Evansville basketball, but how about how patient he is out on the floor? He doesn't take bad shots, plays very intelligent basketball, and obviously did a terrific job for the team early on, but they don't do a lot to get him open here, at least in the second half. They stay well within the framework of their offense. Nice cut.
Petty misses the layup. They'll have a chance at a three-point play.
Every time a Kansas postman catches the ball and makes the quick move, something good happens. When he stands and holds, it's in trouble. Look at Earl. He almost puts it up the minute that he touches it. You see it right here. No time for the defense to double down on him. It's a good drop step move on the inside.
He can increase the lead to 16. London with the rebound. No-look pass to Bradford. This freshman, Marlon London, has incredible vision on that floor. Court presence.
Without being fancy, Kansas has shown some excellent interior passing tonight, and that's why they have so many points in the paint. It hasn't been like lob passes for dunks. It's been just good passing, good movement inside. Earl, because of those knee operations and injuries, Jim, is not the leaper that he was coming out of high school. At one time, he was a very explosive jumper.
Kansas team that appears to be peaking at precisely the right time, winning the Big 12 tournament last week. There's Wilson, three-pointer from the corner. He now has 27.
He was looking for calling the timeout, but didn't get anybody to look at him.
Kansas, the Big 12 tournament champions. They were second in a three-way tie for second in the regular season. The ball kicked. And actually, the Jayhawks this year had a stretch in February where they were knocked out of the top 25 for the first time in 144 weeks of polling.
Well, they can say one thing, Jim, that nobody else in the country, I guess, can say right now. We've won every conference tournament championship we've ever played in the league. Right? Since it became the Big 12.
Hell, yeah, not counting the Big 8.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're in the Big 12. They won every championship it's ever played. Oh, it wasn't there. Chenoweth could have made himself available there, but still, Boshi didn't have any opening.
Push outside by Boshi. Kansas trying to duplicate what happened back in 1988 when the Jayhawks were a 6th seed out of the Midwest. And with Danny Manning and the Miracles, they went on to win a national championship. Pulling away here against the Purple Aces down in New Orleans.
Craig Gumbel and Clark Kellogg in New York. 77-61, Kansas with the lead on Evansville. We'll put that screen at the bottom, that score at the bottom of your screen, and tell you about Lafayette and Miami. Miami jumped off in the second half, Clark.
12-zip run, and they've outscored them with the front court 47-18. So Miami has dominated action in the paint area, and Johnny Hemsley has been outstanding from behind the three-point line.
Outstanding is right. 8 of 11 from behind the arc and 26 points all told. Meanwhile, in Charlotte, Florida A&M coach Clayton, you know, he lost his ticket, or he didn't bring his ticket to the airport when they were traveling to Charlotte. He had to buy another one. He said, nothing is easy for us. Boy, he's got that right.
Well, Duke just keeps the pressure. One of the impressive things about Duke is no matter who they're playing, they always play at a certain level. They're going to play their game, which is pressure defense, move the ball, and get high-quality shots on offense.
Florida A&M with 20 turnovers tonight. They've only made 14 shots from the field. Meanwhile, there are 6 Blue Devils in double figures. It's just a case of just being outmanned for the Rattlers. Meanwhile, at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, Mount St. Mary's and the top seed Michigan State Spartans. Spartans now lead it by 20.
Much like Miami against Lafayette, Michigan State dominating the action on the glass and in the paint.
A.J. Granger, 11 points. Well, Michigan State has outscored, the Michigan State bench has outscored the Mountaineers bench 24-0. So the starters and the reserves getting it done for the top seed in the Midwest. Let's get you back to New Orleans. First round action in the Midwest, Evansville, Kansas. Jim Nance, Billy Packer.
Kansas down 11 midway through the first half. Couldn't figure out how to stop Marcus Wilson early. Gregory jumper pulled down by Hetty. But Kansas pulled away, led by 4 at halftime, and the largest lead, 19, has been trimmed with that basket by Wilson. And it's been trimmed now to 13. So 19-13.
And Wilson wanted to pick off that cross-court pass. Pugh going to go to the line. Jim, you mentioned about that 88 Kansas team. I think one of the things that's so interesting about that team, they were a 6th seed. But you know what happened to them until they got to the Final Four? They never had to play the next game against the high seed. There was always an upset there. They played Xavier, who was 11 seed, Murray State a 14 seed, Vandy that was a 7 seed, and then Kansas State a 4 seed until they got to the Final Four. And then they start knocking off a number 2 seed, Duke. And then finally that memorable game against Oklahoma. 2 at that time Big 8 teams going head-to-head in the tournament. Never thought Kansas could stay with them in a game that was run-shoot. It was 50-50 at halftime.
At the 50th Final Four. That was some night in Kemper Arena, wasn't it?
Oh, boy, it was something. I've never been more wrong about strategy. I said Kansas cannot win this game playing full court, running up and down, and boy, they proved that they could handle any kind of challenge. It was just Billy Tubbs' outstanding Oklahoma team.
Just magic in the air. No. And Chenoweth comes out with it. Ryan Robertson has returned with his 4 fouls.
Bushi should have been ready to shoot that jumper. He had a wide open shot. Look at Gregory wheel in there.
Pugh, like to see Pugh get one more basket. And a couple of chances inside. Needs one for a career high.
I think he's a little tired right now. There is, boy, Wilson putting on a tremendous show.
And he's put a 30 on Kansas here in the tournament. 31, in fact.
So we've had 2 30-point scoring games right here on this floor in back-to-back games now.
And the other one actually was 43 by Wally Serbiak. Bochy. Gregory out battling for the rebound. Runyon.
Gregory's very explosive on the inside. Runyon just can't stay with him.
5 players in double figures for Kansas.
Substitution.
And let's check the CBS Sportsline stat of the game. We've been monitoring points in the paint, and look at that decisive edge of 40 for Kansas. For complete tournament coverage, go to cbs.sportsline.com. What about Kansas? Kansas in this tournament, the way it's looking here in the second half tonight.
Well, I think it's a team obviously coached by a man very experienced in NCAA tournament play. I think it's a team a little young as they proceed further down the line, even though they play real good defense. see some teams a little bit more mature than they are inside. Boy, there's
Marcus
Wilson.
Wilson, 34. That's not the season high against Kansas. That was Rayford Young of Texas Tech. Put 41 on Kansas back in February.
And this is a good defensive team he's doing this against.
Oshie off the glass. Under 4 minutes to play. And a 22nd timeout by Kansas.
It's amazing how much that young man has progressed in regard to his decision making since I saw him way back in December.
That three-pointer a moment ago by Marcus Wilson. That ties a career high for him. That's special here on his senior season, and it could be his final game, down 13. He's tied a career high. Looking back to that '88 championship game, Billy, in Kansas City. Here it is. Danny Manning's 31 points, 18 rebounds. Remember that goal?
Oh, sure do.
Kansas' second national title, beating Oklahoma 83-79.
Larry Brown, his dad, and the coaching staff. Memorable moment. Then Larry Brown stepped down. Kansas got in some trouble and brought in a guy that people said, wait a second, an assistant coach from North Carolina? Going to take a chance with him at Kansas?
Just a few months later, that was in July '88. And Roy signed on. Had to sit out that first year from the postseason because of the probation, pre-existing violations before the Williams tenure, but they've taken off ever since. And this Kansas program has more wins in the 90s than any other team. Not more national championships or more Final Fours, although there have been 2 Final Four visits for Roy. And there's Matt Doherty, who won a championship on this floor. Yeah. In fact, really, literally on this floor. This floor here has been repolished and the works, but this is the floor from the '82 championship game. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah. And remember that that North Carolina team was basically a 5-man squad. Dean Smith that year didn't go to the bench very often. They played low-scoring games. Matter of fact, a very low-scoring team, despite the fact that it had the Jordan, the Perkins, and the Worthy on it.
Oshie's basket. Matt Doherty calling for it to be counted, but they're going to take it away. No basket. Oshie on the charge.
Roy Williams feeling they stepped in after he went up in the air.
Doesn't want his team to get careless. Up 12, final 3.5. Martial Law, all new episodes. Sammo Hung in Arsenio Hall. It could be in a little crunch. Will they escape? Saturday, 9 o'clock, 8 Central Time here on CBS. All right, Marcus Wilson tied his career high with 34. Can he top it? All-time scoring list. He's number 2 at Evansville. Keon.
He's getting plenty of good looks, but that's not the same as it being released by Wilson. Roy Williams played a lot of zone in this second half of this ball game. Taking a little time off the clock.
And that'll be a 1-and-1 situation. Bradford heading to the line. 59% free throw shooter. Evansville still fighting. 12 down with 3 minutes to go. Nick Bradford, one of 3 players from Arkansas to play at Kansas. In fact, grew up right there in Razorback town of Fayetteville.
Well, on the floor, you talk about recruitment. On the floor, you've got the Player of the Year of Arkansas, Player of the Year of Nebraska, and Player of the Year of Dakota. And a McDonald's All-American, 2 McDonald's All-Americans, so it's not like Kansas doesn't get some talent.
Bradford was 16, 12 of them in the second half.
Trying to reverse the ball back to Wilson. Good job by Robertson to recognize what was happening behind him.
And Pugh came over to help out too. Had 2 on him in a hurry. Runyon. The shot clock's not working, Billy.
No, it isn't. Let's see if it's working out. Now it is on both ends of the floor. It wasn't working on the right-hand side. Our right-hand side. Well, Evansville's going to have to put a lot more pressure if they're going to make a comeback right here. I don't think it's in the...
Don't think it's in the works.
It's not in the works for them. There's no question about that.
Boshi with the 3. 13 for the freshman, who was the outstanding player of the Big 12 tournament. Snow trying to answer. Too strong.
Well, everybody's shooting the ball except Wilson. What Roy Williams wants to do now, he's got the win. What he wants his team is just to execute, take time off the clock as much as possible. Notice how Evansville is not going out to guard that ball.
No fouling either. Minute and a half to go. Robertson in the lane. There's Pugh, career high.
There he goes. He deserved that, didn't he, Jim?
He really did.
Boy, in that first half, he worked so beautifully when Chenoweth was having all kinds of problems down that low post. And he set the stage for Kansas to get their points in the paint offensively.
He's got a double-double. 15 points, 10 rebounds for T.J. Pugh.
And I thought in that first half, he kind of wore down a little bit. You know, he went a long time without any timeouts. About 10 minutes more than he normally plays in this ball game tonight.
Final minute, then we'll wait for Kentucky to open defense of its national title against New Mexico State. Kentucky and Kansas, it could be just that on Sunday. They have never met in an NCAA tournament before. Hard to imagine. 22nd timeout. Jim Cruz wanted to get his subs in.
Yeah, wanted to give everybody an opportunity to say I played in an NCAA tournament game.
Well, just the final minute here in New Orleans. Jim Cruz, Purple Aces, Missouri Valley Conference regular season champions. Been quite a season. They were predicted to finish 6th. Jim Cruz, he was just brought in the subs so they can get in the box score here. They can say they played an NCAA tournament game. His first game he ever played in his college career, he went up against Harvard. Said he'll never forget trying to defend this star player from Harvard, James Brown, former colleague.
No, he said he wore James Brown out in that game.
I was trying to be nice. JB's a dear friend.
JB,
I didn't want to say that on TV.
We'll give you your afro that year is probably so big he couldn't get around. But JB was a great player in high school, and he could have been at Harvard as well.
Look at these passes, 2 in a row. Kansas flashes of brilliance for sure.
Now that's been the key to this game. Interior passing inside the paint. Kansas has really done a nice job with it. You know, Jimmy Cruz also, you know, he was a starter earlier in his career. Of course, then he got beat out by better people by the time he got around to that 76 championship with guys like Quinn Buckner, Scott May.
Started in the Final Four game as a freshman against UCLA. He was trying to guard Tommy Curtis. He said Curtis beat us up pretty good because we were doubling down on Bill Walton. But started as a freshman in the Final Four, did not start as a senior when they went undefeated. James Short, closing seconds here in New Orleans. Kansas will win in the Superdome for the first time in 3 tries.
You know, that might have been the story he gave to Bob Knight after the game. Coach, I was doubling down on Walton. That's why my man scored so much. Almost went.
Well, the Jayhawks are hitting their stride in the postseason. They've now won a first-round game for the 16th straight time. We can advance Kansas to the second round here in New Orleans. And the Jayhawks on Sunday will take on the winner of Kentucky, New Mexico State, which will be next, 1/2 hour away. Miami University and Utah advanced in the afternoon. And Kansas pulls away after a 4-point halftime lead to win by 21. The Chevrolet most valuable players of the game are Marcus Wilson with 34 points, closing out his career, tying his career high, and T.J. Pugh with a career high 15 points in a double-double performance here tonight. advanced the 6th team into the Midwest second round. We'll be going back to New York to Greg and Clark when we continue on the road to the Final Four on CBS in just a moment.
It's first round East action. Lafayette against Miami. The Hurricanes win their first ever tournament game 75-54. The Lafayette band was excited, but wasn't enough to just throw the band because Johnny Hemsley was on the other side, Clark.
He knocked down 5 triples in the first half, 9 for the game. He felt it and felt it good.
9 of 12 from behind the arc, 31 points all told. And Tim James helped pull Miami ahead in the second half, makes the nice move on the way to the hoop. Miami moves on. They will play the winner of the Texas-Purdue matchup coming up this evening. In Charlotte, North Carolina, first round in the East, Florida A&M fell hard to the Duke Blue Devils, 99-58. Mike Krzyzewski looking on from the bench. Didn't have much worry. Florida A&M, valiant effort to hang close early. Monroe Pippin's long three-pointer, but here comes Duke.
They were dominant all game long. There you see the jumper, Shane Battier from the corner.
Then watch William Avery off the dribble, penetrate, dish, dunk. Duke was up big. They won big, 99-58. Florida A&M, remember, began this season 0-10. They finished the season 12-18 with a number 16 seed here. 16 seed still has not beaten a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Duke will play the winner of College of Charleston versus Tulsa. At the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans, the Evansville Purple Aces hung tough early. Kansas Jayhawks got the better of it eventually, 95-74. Kansas cheerleaders had plenty to cheer about here. First half, Marcus Wilson was tough.
He had a huge game, 34 points, a career high, 2 of them right there off the steal.
Then Kansas came back. Watch the layup by T.J. Pugh, put the Jayhawks up 2, and Evansville coach Jim Cruz not at all pleased, and he wouldn't get any happier, Clark.
Well, Kansas able to get it done in the paint, either on short passes and shots like that, or off the second chances.
The Jayhawks have now registered 16 straight opening game victories in the tournament, and they will move on to play the winner of the matchup between New Mexico State and Kentucky. 6th seed Kansas will win 95-74. At the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, first round in the Midwest, Mount St. Mary's trailing Michigan State now 72-41. What's his problem? Green and white is his problem.
He loves the Spartans. And Jason Klein loves that transition 3.
How about Mateen Cleaves?
He's the quarterback. Pilfer right here. They won't catch him when he gets that kind of a head start. Nice use of the body. Got the hoop and the foul.
And the Green Bean man loves it. Spartans pulled away in the second half. Charlie Bell finishes Michigan State up 42-24 at that point, and the Spartans lead it 72-41, under 3.5 minutes to play now in the first half. Coming up later on, in fact, not too long from now, Tulsa versus the College of Charleston. Tip time is about 9:56 Eastern time in the Midwest. 14th seed New Mexico State against the defending champion Kentucky Wildcats at 9:59 in the East. 10th seed Purdue against 7th seed Texas in the Midwest. Ole Miss slated to face number 8 Villanova. We'll take a timeout and we will come back with more on the road to the Final Four in just a moment.